Hello, we are Ha Hongbom, Chu Hyun-do, Song Junso. Our topic of TMP is CLIL. So this time, we'll introduce CLIL, Content and Language Integrated Learning. CLIL, which is the abbreviation of the Contents and Language Integrated Learning, is an educational approach where the content of learning is taught through the medium of a foreign language. So in the CLIL, the foreign language and non-language subjects are integrated in the classrooms, and the students have to speak in target language. These are the characteristics of CLIL. For the first, the dominant CLIL language is English, reflecting the fact that a command of English as an additional language is increasingly regarded as a key literacy feature worldwide. Secondly, CLIL lessons are usually timetabled as content lessons, like biology, music, or geography. While the target language normally continues as a subject in its own right in the shape of foreign language lessons, CLIL doesn't. Therefore, CLIL could be interpreted as a foreign language enrichment measure packaged into content learning. Now, we'll see the potential of CLIL. For the first, CLIL can raise students' linguistic competence and confidence. In CLIL classroom, students use the language to learn and to use it in a variety of situations. And this can lead to an increase in linguistic competence. Secondly, students can develop a wide range of skills. CLIL focuses on both content and language learning. So students can have opportunities to raise various skills such as risk-taking, communication skills, extending vocabulary, and spontaneous talk. Also, students can raise awareness of cultures and global citizenship. Students can learn about the cultures of English-speaking countries, and they can talk about the global and cultural issues that people share, which could raise their cultural understanding. So the learners can have more increased feelings about the countries and the cultures. Finally, CLIL can motivate both teachers and students. One of the most powerful findings of CLIL groups centers on increased motivation in both learners and teachers. By building communities of practice, both teachers and students have to collaborate and cooperate, so they can be motivated well. And now, I'll introduce the underlying framework for the effective classroom. As you can see, there are 4 building blocks for effective CLIL practice, and they are called 4 C's. The first one is content, which is subject matter, and the second one is communication, and the third one is cognition, and the last one is culture. So these 4 things are the factors which compose CLIL practice. About the connection with theories we have learned, we could find out that CLIL considers intercultural learning as one of the main concepts in language learning too, constituting the first C of the CLIL. Indeed, social control strategies such as initiating contact, anticipating cultural misunderstandings, and using diplomacy in discussions are used in CLIL classroom. Also, we could apply linguist Stefan Krashen's theories. Actually, CLIL is an attempt to transform the environment of language through learning into an environment similar to L1 language learning. And this is related to his claim that language is acquired when the learning environment is similar to that of L1 learning. Also, he said that acquisition of language follows a natural order, which involves implicit learning. And this is a long-term process. So according to his hypothesis and claim, we could conclude that curriculum and second language should be integrated and taught for a long time so that students can communicate and study in a second language. Finally, CLIL involves interaction with peer students and spontaneous talk, which is closely related to communicative language teaching. Like the communicative language teaching method, CLIL also focuses on the communication skills by providing a pragmatic, authentic, and functional use of language.
So, I'm going to share the lesson plan, which is constructed in the theory of CLIR. The main topic of the lesson is Foods of English-speaking cultures. The first aim of the class is to successfully provide an English medium instruction, EMI, in CLIR context to 9th graders. The second aim is to introduce the theme of Foods of English-speaking cultures. This lesson is conducted in English 100%. There are two reasons for that. First, CLIR is about using a foreign language, and at least 50% of the class should be conducted in the target language. Second, this is English class, and in this class, the target language is English. So we decided to set the class as 100% EMI. Then I will talk about the objectives of this class. The objectives consist of two things: teaching objectives and learning outcomes. Teaching objectives are what the teacher plans to teach. Learning outcomes are what students will be able to do at the end of the lesson. The objectives also can be categorized into so-called 4 C's: content, cognition, communication, and culture. So I will mainly talk about what teacher and students will do in the category of 4 C's. First, the contents. In the contents, the teacher will introduce food cultures of 5 English-speaking countries: the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, respectively. The teacher will introduce the representative foods of each country and recipes. For example, hamburger of US and maple syrup of Canada and hangi of New Zealand. Then the teacher also explains the historical and environmental factors which those representative foods have. For example, the teacher can say hangi of New Zealand was invented because of geothermal heat of New Zealand. In this process, it is very important for the teacher to make the students understand the relationship between the recipes of the foods and the historical environmental facts. Students will describe the recipes and their historical environmental factors they studied. This process can be conducted utilizing both speaking and writing activities. Through this, students will be able to understand the relationship between the recipes of the foods and the historical environmental facts. Also, students can memorize key vocabulary and use key phrases. Second, the cognitions. In the cognitions, the teacher has to help the students to understand the relationship between the foods and historical environmental facts and apply them. So, for the program the teacher can use to do so, we created Make Your Own Recipes program. This program is that students in several groups cooperate on making their group's own recipes based on what they learned in this class and present them to other students. Because this class's main topic is Foods of English-speaking cultures, so students have to create their own English-speaking cultures foods recipes, supposing that they are from English-speaking countries. For example, a group of students can suppose they are from Australia and create the recipe of Kung Pao kangaroo, saying kangaroos are Australia's common animals, and since 1850s, many Chinese people immigrated to Australia. So, in this example, the students utilized Australia's environmental and historical factors very properly. It is the teacher's role to help the students to do this activity well. Third, the communication. The communication can be subdivided into 3 types: language of learning, language for learning, and language through learning. Language of learning means essential vocabulary, grammar associated with the topic and theme contents. So, key grammars like relative pronouns, relative adverbs, to infinitive and dummy subject it, and passive voice, and key phrases like it is, was, that, blah, blah, can be the good examples. Knowing these expressions is important, but the students have to try to memorize key vocabulary, grammar, and phrases and apply them in different ways. So, the teacher has to teach these expressions before starting the program. And language for learning means language needed to operate in the learning environment, and in particular, this lesson. I mentioned that the teacher can use making your own recipes program. To do this activity effectively, the students have to understand how to explain something, how to independently research, how to write down the information about something. Also, they have to understand learning how to learn, language for group work, understanding instructions, how to deal with not understanding, and how to make a presentation. The language for learning is strongly related with the cognition. So here, the teacher's role is very important. Language through learning means that the language that can support the student's activity, such as dictionary use for vocabulary extension and internet searching for gaining more information. Fourth, the culture. In the culture, the teacher will summarize historical and environmental facts that affect culture and then make the students understand the fact that all cultures in the world are different and we have to respect others' cultures. Students will raise awareness about different food cultures of other countries. We talked about the objectives of this lesson plan based on forces. We thought that this lesson plan can make students pay attention to various types of other countries' cultures and respect other cultures by participating in this cultural activity. This is end of our presentation, and thank you for listening.